While growing up in Koreatown, I only knew about the Korean culture superficially. Although I learned various things from my parents' bosses, such as the difference between Korean, Japanese, and Chinese chopsticks, how to count and say small phrases in Korean, most of my knowledge of Korean culture was based off Korean pop music and dramas. It wasn't until I studied abroad in Seoul that I began to learn about Korean traditions, such as Chuseok, political relations, history, architecture, religion, and other aspects of Korean culture. On one occasion while being abroad, my Korean friend and I talked about our identities. She told me that she had been born in Korea, but had grown up in Vietnam. The reason her parents decided to move to Vietnam was because they did not want her and her sister to go through the Korean education system. I inquired how she felt about studying in Korea, specifically whether she felt like an outsider since she did not grow up in Korea. I told her that the reason I was asking was that I had heard that Korean Americans were not considered Korean. I was expecting an answer in which she would empathize with Korean Americans and say that she had a similar experience. However, her response shocked me. She told me that although she had not grown up in Korea, she was considered Korean in the society. She explained that because she spoke Korean fluently and understood the culture, she was able to claim her Korean identity. When I came back from abroad, I grew interested in how Korean Americans were able to develop their identities. Specifically, I wanted to know how my community was providing Korean Americans with resources to develop their identity. My friend had been very clear that Korean Americans were not Korean because they behaved a certain way, usually very different from the expectation of Korean culture, and usually did not speak Korean. In fact, although it was a bit disturbing to hear, my friend once told me that I was more Korean than one of her friends that lived in the US because I enjoyed eating Korean food and could apparently speak more Korean than the Korean American friend she was talking about. Although I understood the differences she was talking about, I was curious as to how my Korean American community members felt about their identity. Koreatown is a very diverse community that has changed drastically over the years. The diversity of Koreatown has been a result of the 1965 Immigration and Naturalization Act, the 1990 Latinoization, and other social incidents such as the LA riots. The passage of the 1965 Immigration and Naturalization Act abolished the discriminatory policy favoring immigrants from Western Europe and established an open system based on reunifying families, and was designed to ensure that no country would get special preference. This reform led to the significant changes in various populations in the country, but especially in cities like LA. In addition, due to the 1990 Latinoization, Latinos outnumber Koreans in K-Town. Latinos comprised of 48% and Koreans 23%. Koreatown underwent another population change due to the civil unrest of 1992. During the riots, LA faced various challenges with regards to polarization and fragmentation of the city's population. The boundaries were set based on racial and ethnic lines. With different racial groups competing for jobs, healthcare, social services, and political representation, the conflict between these groups arose. It was not surprising to see that during that time, Koreatown lost a bit of its diversity due to political conflicts. However, as of today, Koreatown can be described as a colorful community. Furthermore, I went to K-Town to talk to a few of my Korean American community members and learn how they felt about their identity. Besides talking to a few friends, I also reached out to a mentor of high school students of a non-profit organization in K-Town. From him, I was hoping to learn more about the resources in K-Town and their effects on community members.
I think, well, there's a lot of things. I think it means like enjoying like culture as in like food, music. There's also politics. That's like this education system and like how you think of things. Like I think like the Korean like mindset is more of like community based. I think it's like like I think well at least how I know it and how my parents know it. It's like if you don't like have this, then like my neighbor next door will take care of it because he or she has the resources that we don't, right? But like on the flip side, in America, I think it's very competitive and it's very individualistic. So like the whole thing with like the American dream, it's like you fight for what you want and like you have to put in all your work to like achieve your dreams, right? So there's like like there's more pride in like kind of building your own castle and like not getting help from others. So I think that's another like difference in the mindset. And so Korean American, it means like just trying to like have your own stance in the American culture and society without like losing yourself in it too much. So yeah, by losing yourself, I mean like losing yourself in like white culture. I think that's what it is.
When I got to college, I started questioning it because no one knows what a Korean American person is. Like, a lot of people thought I was an international student because I'm Asian. And it's just like, that's understandable, I guess. Like, I was also confused as to who was an international student and who wasn't. But up until, like, last year, I never had a problem identifying myself. But then, like I said, once again, when I got here, I thought, like, where does a Korean American person belong? Like, who am I supposed to be? Who am I perceived to be? Like, just like, what am I in this not very diverse school? Like, you identify yourself as something, but no one knows what that identification is, like, even if you tell them what it is. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a struggle, like, figuring out where, like, who I am. Everyone I met, or almost everyone I met at school, or in the city itself, was Korean American, so that Asian American thing wasn't, like, a big thing.
Okay. How they exposed me to not only the language, but like the food and how they play. I mean, like my mom says in Korea, they work hard and then at night they usually just like play. I was like, that's exactly Koreatown. Like just like drive through during the night and you'll see like a bunch of people at like the Madang Hall, you know, like I'm just like, it's so true. So I was like, I guess it's still like in some ways a replica of Korea.
Like, everyone just identifies as American because that's a diverse enough that's a diverse enough label, I guess, to a lot of people. So like you lose that Korean American part, you lose that like Chinese American part, you lose people, at least like for my schools, tend to lose their identities because like it's not something big for them. So I feel like K-Town gives you a sense of who you are that you won't get if you don't have a K-Town.
Koreatown is a very urban community. I think there are a lot of cars rushing around and it's very busy. But there are some areas where it's not busy at all. It's kind of suburban even. So I think my identity was shaped like by my environment, like places to hang out. Yeah, like church, like just places where I can like continue to build off of the person I am now.
It just enforced the part where Americans and other people don't really know Koreans that well. And how Koreans are so innocent to America. Okay. And how like Koreatown kind of became their kind of sense of hope and like their beginning, their turning point. So I feel it has that like background sense, like it's like a stepping stone for them. And plus for like the new people, the new generation, it's a reminder of who they are.
Through a couple of email exchanges, I learned from Ernie, who was the mentor I contacted, that KYCC provides its youth community members with a mentor they can see as a role model. He states that he has observed that many children do not have the opportunity to talk with adult figures, which he believes has a great impact on the development of a child's identity. He mentions that it is important that these children have a trusting, positive, and close relationship with an adult. He explains that this is one of the priorities at KYCC because there are significant barriers between the students they provide for and their parents. These barriers are due to various things such as culture, communication, and generation gaps. Furthermore, KYCC provides its members with a safe space where individuals can be themselves and learn who they are. While K-Town is a place where my Korean American community members are able to rightfully claim their Korean identity, They also express pride in being a K-Towner. They embrace the fluidity of who they are and accept that Koreatown is a reflection of their developing identity.